Welcome to Aquarius season, everyone. We have made huge progress, at least here in the United States, and this is reflected in the stars as well. The season of change is now back with us. I am so excited to tell you all about it. Aloha! Welcome to the Savvy Luminary, an astrology podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, an Aquarius boss woman, a brand designer, and business astrologer. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers just like you reach your highest potential and become the luminaries you are star charted to be. Wow, what a week here in the United States. And I'm sure if you've been on other places on this world, you probably had your eyes on the United States and this inauguration. What was going to happen? Well, gratefully, things went off without a hitch and we made history. I am so excited to have our first woman vice president who has shattered so many glass ceilings, being the first and yet not the last. The first mixed woman, Kamala, she's from the Bay Area. Woohoo! She's out. She's was born in Oakland and was in San Francisco for a long time. I've been watching her for many, many years. Half Black and half Indian, so wonderful. She's actually a Libra Sun. So she has that, this ability to create the great, wonderful relationships. And her moon sign is Aries. So she is not afraid to take risks and be a leader and lead with this kind of pioneering thing, right? That's part of her design, is to be recognized and seen and have this desire to be a pioneer, hello, breaking all these glass ceilings. And then Gemini rising, she has a huge message to share. It filled my heart seeing her being sworn in, and with her husband as being our first gentleman, and how she's going to be supporting Joseph Biden, and just, watching him come onto stage and his speech, just the kind of compassionate leader he is. Maybe he isn't the greatest orator and the greatest speaker, but you can tell that he has lived a long life, a life filled with many ups and downs. And he's bringing that love and that compassion and that desire for unity to come back. I actually haven't looked at his chart, and I need to look at his chart now, because there's just so much Pisces energy when I see him and when I hear him speak. It's so beautiful. And so I hope that we can all come to this place of unifying our differences and finally looking to the future now that we have hope and change back in our office. And now it's time to act on this change, right? As we come into this season of Aquarius. And oh my gosh, Biden didn't wait a second to initiate change and basically undoing all of the damage of the previous 4 years. Things that just filled my heart were to see him just take this initiative on getting back into the Paris Agreement with, our eyes set back into sustainable energy and, environmental as protections. Why is that such a no-brainer, right? I don't understand how there are businesses that see environmental protections as this thing that it's going to make business hard to do. It's well, maybe it's going to make business a little bit more difficult right at the beginning, or your profits a little bit less. But hey, we're here building out for the long term. How can people be so short-sighted, right? I love that the Biden administration already, took back the rights for the Keystone pipelines and everything, that just warmed my heart, protecting indigenous lands, protecting the environment. I'm so glad that they've brought back, not brought back, but mandated masks on the federal properties. Like, again, no brainers. Like, I just don't understand how the previous administration saw these things as as cruxes to business. So we shall see what unfolds with poetic justice. I'll get off my political soapbox here right now, but I am just so excited to talk about this change. And as we are now officially in Aquarius season, I know our last episode, I had to fill you in on Capricorn season, because we didn't go through all of the Capricorn energies, but this Capricorn energy isn't directly separate from Aquarius. Like, Capricorn really supports Aquarius. And so today we're going to be talking about that Aquarius energy, that need for individuality, that need to look towards the future, that need to act on humanitarian goals. Like, yes, we have so many planets that are going to be piling up in Aquarius. They're already there, and more planets are going to be joining them. So I'll be talking about that. And I'll also be talking today about our full moon in Leo. Aquarius and Leo are intertwined. They live in polarity, like a magnet, the both positive and negative. Not to say that anything is one is bad, but it's just like how they lock into each other. And so when we look at our Leo full moon, we're going to be looking at this polarity between confidence and uniqueness, and how we can let things go in our path if we're not really feeling confident in our uniqueness. And then, of course, I'll be talking about the astrology of the week, as well as answering a user question, all in today's episode. I'm taking this long, beautiful breath, this breath of hope. Oh my gosh. And so today's mantra for today's episode is, I am a change maker and revel in my uniqueness. I can finally breathe a sigh of relief with our new administration, because you know what? Change is top down. It truly is. I've seen it over and over again from my time when I used to go into all the schools. I would see just kind of like the culture of an elementary school based on the leadership of the principal. So no matter, all of us, if we can think about just from top down, who are we here to lead? We really ripple forth and impact so many others. So I really want you to see yourself as a change maker, and I want you to revel in your uniqueness instead of hiding behind it. And that's our theme today. So please, if you could ground your feet on the ground and sit up straight with a straight spine, gather in all of your energies and take a deep, clearing, cleansing breath. Now repeat after me. I am a change maker and revel in my uniqueness. And again, I am a change maker and revel in my uniqueness. Awesome. So let's dive into this change-making energy. So today I really want to focus on Aquarius in our business and brand. So you already know that even if you don't have any Aquarian planets, that you have Aquarius in your chart somewhere by house. And the Aquarius archetype, or, like if we're thinking about psychographics, or I love to say astrographics, Aquarius is an air sign. It's a fixed air sign. And so with an air sign, it's about the mind, and it's about logic, and it's about intellect and knowingness and just information. But all air signs like Aquarius and Gemini and Libra, their idea about this information is to socialize and to create relationships. So Gemini, with our mutable air, is about sharing information with like-minded people. So this is your closest relationships, your communities, and your siblings. And then when we look at Libra energy, that relationship is about sharing and socializing with creating committed partnerships and more one-on-one relationships, creating bridges. And now we expand with Aquarius Aquarius, air sign, which is about creating your larger groups, your larger friend networks, and really looking forward to all of humanity. So you can see that Aquarius in our brand represents our bigger platforms, represents our fans, represents our networks, represents our bigger communities, right? So think of it as just even like wider reaching. And Aquarius loves to share information about the future, information about social impact, information about social involvement, humanitarian involvement, the future, social awareness, friendships, social causes through your groups, right? So we all have this energy in us. And so Aquarius, the radical change maker, needs to be free. And, just a couple of months ago, we were talking about Sagittarius, and Sagittarians also need to be free, but their freedom comes from these two different places. With Sagittarius, the need to be free comes from this place to free to explore, free to expand their mind, free to just be mobile and move about the world. For Aquarius, freedom is to be completely original, to individuate. And sometimes that can be really hard for us, especially for women entrepreneurs, not so much for the younger generations, but, for anybody who was like Gen X or before, we were really taught to conform. And so the Aquarius ideal of radical change making and being an original seems so against the grain because we were all told to blend in. Like, who is with me here, right? I know that was for me. I feel like I spent my whole life living as a chameleon, always blending in as that mixed person. Like, okay, who am I supposed to be now? Who am I supposed to be now? Who am I supposed to be now? And now finally that I am living in my true Aquarian nature, I have a son. My son is an Aquarius, Sun and Jupiter in Aquarius. It's like, wow, I finally know who I'm supposed to be and how strangely and beautifully and weirdly different I am supposed to be. And that really is Aquarian energy. So when we look at Aquarian energy again, I mentioned that it was an air sign, so it loves logic. Now, it's also a fixed sign. So remember that each of the zodiacs have a modality. So we have mutable, fixed, and cardinal. Cardinals are the initiators, the starters. Mutable are the go with the flow kind of people. They can just kind of change on a dime. But the fixed people, changing on a dime, no such thing, right? So when we look at fixed air, right? Even if you didn't know anything about Aquarius besides it being an air sign and a fixed sign, you would know that fixed, meaning unchanging or difficult to change, air, intellect, and logic, means that people who have Aquarius energy or Aquarius energy in general is this utter knowing, right? Like, don't tell an Aquarius what they think to know to be true. Like, okay, this is the perfect example. It's actually kind of funny. So both my husband and I are Aquarians, and we had taco night last night. I love sour cream. I'm not super into cheese, but I love sour cream. And my husband loves cheese, not so much sour cream. And for whatever reason, a while ago, he seemed to pick up the idea that sour cream was not healthy, that it's just full of fat, and that cheese was such the better, more healthy alternative. And, I get so sick of him, just telling me oh, fat, fat, fat. I'm just like, well, let's take a look at the facts, right? So we had 2 8-ounces, 1 8-ounce block of cheese, of cheddar cheese, and 1 8-ounce container of sour cream. And I was like, look at the nutritional value. Calorie per calorie, cheese has more. Fat per fat, almost exactly the same. Each one had different mineral content and nutritional content. But finally, I was like, here are the stats. Here are the facts. So get out of your all-knowingness about sour cream not being more or less healthy than cheese. They're exactly the same. And he's like, well, you eat more sour cream per serving. I'm like, dude, you just had 3 ounces of cheese and my 1 8-ounce container, I just put a little bit of sour cream. So take that back to your all knowing, right? So of course, that example there is just the shadow side of an Aquarius. So if you ever find an Aquarius or fixed air, right, it's really hard to argue facts with them because they will just assume that they have the answer. And so you really have to provide all the evidence-based information to kind of quash their all-knowing if you happen to get yourself into an argument with an Aquarius. I don't recommend it. So not to say that, again, that's the shadow side. At the highest side, like Aquarians with their knowing and with their ideas tend to be very future oriented. And you've heard me talk about this before because I have so much Aquarian and Sagittarian, all this like future forward, freedom loving energy that sometimes it's really hard to reflect back or ground or, just like look to the past to learn, right? But so let's talk more about Aquarius because Aquarius has 2 rulers. Saturn is the traditional ruler and Uranus is the modern ruler. So when Uranus was discovered, then astrologers attached Uranus and its innovation and its ability to break free and reform to Aquarius. And I think the pattern of adding both Saturn, the traditional ruler, and Uranus to the more modern ruler to Aquarius is amazing. So if you don't have Aquarius by planet in your chart, you can always look to the symbol for Uranus in your chart to see where it's adding that little zing of Aquarian energy, right? So with Aquarius again in our brand, this is where we are looking to bring social awareness, looking to where we are meant to build out bigger groups, bigger networks, and where we're really supposed to affect change, activism, social causes. And I know you as a spiritual entrepreneur, these are really important because we are coming into this new Aquarian ideal of social equity, social change, social causes. No longer are we just trying to be successful to be the best at the expense of others. No, we are being successful. And that beautiful aphorism, a rising tide lifts all boats. This is the new ideal that we are moving into. So with this Aquarius season, you're going to get a real chance to understand your role in this equitable change and how you rise and how you're going to bring others up with you, right? This is like the ultimate humanitarian involvement. You can also think of the Aquarian archetype as the revolutionary, right? I talked about a little bit about the radical changemaker, but because it's a fixed air, there's also this idea of scientific exploration, that kind of idea of really investigating. There's this element of like a rebel, of genius, of a free spirit, activism, also sharing and relating and exchanging all of those ideas with your community. So wherever you have Aquarius in your chart or by planet is where and how you need to bring this Aquarian energy into your business by sharing and exchanging ideas within your community. So let's take a look by Aquarius by planets. We're not going to have time today to go through Aquarius by house, but I'll talk about that when we have our upcoming Aquarius new moon in a few weeks. So Aquarius by planets, I want you to take a look at your chart and to see if you have any planets in Aquarius. Because if you have planets in Aquarius, so remember that Aquarius is about radical individuality and change making in your brand and business. So if you are a sun in Aquarius, just like me, you create and live by radical individuality and change making in your business. You can see that I am here to change the way people brand their businesses and see their superpowers through astrology. If you have Moon in Aquarius, you need to feel and you desire to be seen as a radical individual and change maker. If you are an Aquarius rising, you are meant to lead and guide others into the future with radical individuality and change making. If you have a quick thinking Aquarius Mercury in Aquarius, oh my goodness, you are here to communicate and know radical individuality and change making. If you have Venus in Aquarius, you are here to connect and share innovative ideas and create value with this individuality and change making in your brand. If you have Mars in Aquarius, you are here to take initiative and drive and motivation with this radical individuality and change making. If you have Jupiter in Aquarius, I also have Jupiter in Aquarius. You are here to believe, envision, and expand on individuality, right? Like going back to this Jupiter example, because my Jupiter and Aquarius are right next to each other, they're conjunct. My Jupiter, like I actually help people believe and see their amazing individuality. If you've ever had an astroband reading with me, this is the one thing that I hear all the time, is that I help people believe in themselves and believe in their superpowers. Now, if you have Saturn in Aquarius, you are here to reform structures that support radical change. Oh my gosh, we need you right now because we are here making change on a humanitarian level. If you have Uranus in Aquarius, if you're a young person and have Uranus in Aquarius, oh my gosh, you are here to innovate and upgrade radical change. Yes, we need you now. And if you're another young person, you have Neptune in Aquarius, you imagine and awaken radical individuality and change in your business. Now, Pluto doesn't go into Aquarius until 2024. So there's no one currently living that has Pluto in Aquarius. But when these little ones are born and we look into the future, these little ones will transform, change. Oh my goodness. When Pluto hits Aquarius, we will officially really be in this new world. So, keep your eyes on 2024. I'm super excited to get there. So right now, and we'll come into the astrology of the week towards the end of this episode, but right now, remember that we have the sun, Jupiter and Saturn all in Aquarius. We also have Mercury in an extended period in Aquarius because Mercury will be going retrograde at the end of this week. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then in a few weeks, Venus will be joining up in Aquarius also. So we have 5 planets that'll be all stacked up in Aquarius, really bringing in this future. Now, if you're resistant to change, this can feel a little bit kind of constraining. But if you have planets in Aquarius, right? Because all of these planets will be zipping through Aquarius. They're going to be pinging your natal Aquarius. So especially Jupiter. We want to take a look at a Jupiter in Aquarius because whatever Jupiter touches, it expands. So if you've been elevating and kind of living in your highest expression, when Jupiter touches one of your natal planets, it's going to feel like this awesome blessing. It's going to feel so exuberant and so vibrant and it's so expansive. So if you have any planets in Aquarius, this is going to be a great year for you with Jupiter coming by. And, Saturn over the next couple of years will also be coming by. And it's really going to give you the structure so that you can really cultivate and focus all of that expansive exuberance so it doesn't just kind of dissipate into the ether. Very excited with the current lineup of cosmic energies. So I'm going to come back to the astrology of the week. Before we get into the full moon, I wanted to invite you to my upcoming Mercury Retrograde workshop, right? So our first Mercury Retrograde is happening on Saturday, January 30th. And so I wanted to prepare you. We hear a lot of people talking about Mercury retrograde survival guides. And, that's such bull. I just want to say Mercury retrogrades are these awesome times because we get to reorganize and rethink and reflect on all of these things. And because Mercury is going to be highlighting the area between Aquarius of 11 degrees and Aquarius of 26 degrees, we're really going to be rethinking radical change to create equitable success in your business, right? Who is there for that, right? This is no longer about succeeding again at everybody else's expense, but it's actually partnering with people over shared values and shared ideals so that everybody can rise and so that we can share our privilege and empower others. And so this Mercury retrograde, our first one in 2021, is going to give you the space to rethink your place in this kind of societal change, right? So on Friday, January 29th at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, I'll be hosting a Mercury retrograde masterclass. It'll be about 90 minutes. We'll go through the phases of this Mercury retrograde, and I'll be doing mini readings for the first 10 people that sign up, that show up live. And so we'll be talking about what will be highlighted during this Mercury retrograde. We'll be talking about where Mercury is going backwards and highlighting by house, so you can focus on and get more information about what needs this rethinking and radical change in your business. So I'm super excited. I love these master classes and I love doing the mini readings at the end. I know people get a lot out of it. So if you're interested, head over to thesavvyluminary.com/Mercury. The classes are sliding scales, so we have a recommended price, but we also have pay what you can. So don't feel bad if you can only afford $10 right now. I would rather have you there getting the information than you not being there. All right. So come on and join us. Head over to thesavvyluminary.com/Mercury so that you can rethink radical change to create equitable success in your business. All right, so let's dive into our full moon in Leo, our first full moon of 2021. So on January 28th, Thursday at 11:16 a.m. Pacific and 2:16 p.m. Eastern, we have our exact full moon at 9 degrees of Leo. The moon will be at 9 degrees of Leo, and the sun and Jupiter will be at 9 degrees of Aquarius. So you already know that a full moon happens when the sun and the moon are facing each other from opposite parts of the sky. And full moons are a completion of a cycle, right? A full moon will happen 6 months after the new moon in that same sign. So in the summertime, in August, we had our new moon in Leo, and now we have our full moon in Leo. So you can look back if you keep your new moon journals, and I hope you do, because it's so wonderful to look back, because if you're like me, you probably forgot what you wrote down. And then when you read your journal, you're like, oh my gosh, I did this. I manifested this. It happens to me every single time. Okay. So you want to look back to your Leo new moon, right? And so full moons are integration times of two opposing signs called polarities. You already heard me talk about polarities a little bit earlier with the interconnection between Aquarius and Leo. And so full moons are the time to prune and a time to release and let go of the things that get in the way of your intentions blossoming fully, right? So if you're looking at kind of the planting cycle and the harvest cycle and applying it to kind of lunar phases, if you were tending to a fruit tree or something like that, you would prune the plant right before harvest in order to get a more robust yield. And so that is that full moon phase of kind of pruning before harvest so that we can really get more focused energy to create more abundant and robust fruit, right? So in our businesses during the full moon phase, we get to reflect on what is holding us back from attaining our intentions and energetically releasing these blocks. Because most of the time, these blocks are self-inflicted. And it's such a beautiful way to look at how these energies work together, right? And so if you've done much manifestation work, you know that when you are letting go, there's also this practice of gratitude where you're thanking and recognizing and celebrating as well. So as you're looking to your full moon today, look back to your Leo new moon intentions. And Leo new moon intentions would have been around leading confidently, leading with your heart-centeredness, being able to be on stage and receive appreciation, right? Or adding a little bit of drama to the way that you do presentations, right? And Leo is a very leading type of energy. So how does one lead confidently? And so as the Aquarius Sun, and Aquarius Sun is about individuality and uniqueness, and some of the shadow sides of it are sometimes feeling like the black sheep, right? That idea of you don't blend in. And so you're kind of ostracized for being different, right? That's a terrible feeling, but that is the shadow side of Aquarian energy. And so when we're looking at that polarity of leading confidently with our own uniqueness, right? We can look to the things that are holding us back from leading confidently, shining brightly, leading with our heart center, all of those Leo ideals, right? So this full moon is all about unlocking your confidence and joy so you can impact others and impact humanity. That's the Aquarian part, to shine brighter. That's the Leo part. You are meant to lead a heart-driven life and partner with those that you are most aligned with, your co-creators. This energy is huge. If you want to take a look at the savvyluminary.com, you can see a chart of the new moon, of the full moon in Aquarius. You'll see that Jupiter and the sun are expansive. So it feels like the sun is even brighter shining on the moon than normal, just because of Jupiter expanding the brightness of the sun. We also have the Saturn close by. So, that kind of feeling of, what am I supposed to do now? What are these next steps? What am I supposed to reform and change? All of those structures that you might be kind of getting in your way. And then, of course, we have both Venus and Pluto at 25 degrees of Capricorn. So Venus is also saying hey, let's connect with other project builders. Let's create with other women entrepreneur leaders, right? Venus in Capricorn, the business woman, and next to Pluto, the transformative business person. So this means in reality, with all these planets kind of piled up together, combining their energies, is that you're not supposed to be there alone. That in a way, you're supposed to be allowing others to shine brightly alongside of you to really impact change so that you can feel confident, so that you can shine brightly, as well as helping others shine brightly. At the same time of the full moon, we have Mars squaring off. So Mars is adding a little bit of motivation. So if you are not feeling motivated to get, to kind of look at this, or you're feeling like maybe something is holding you back, Mars, some kind of outside energy, might be kind of adding to that creative tension. But anytime we have a square like that, a square off, that creative tension, I want you to go deep into that tension, because that's where the creativity lives. So as the moon sits opposite the sun and Jupiter and Saturn, all in Aquarius, with Mars and Uranus sitting halfway to form the perfect triangle called a T-square in astrology, and Venus is cozied up to Pluto, you are here to impact others to shine brighter, and you are here to do this together with powerful co-creators. So today, if you're going to do a release ritual, I want you to get curious with what holds you back from leading in this heart-centered way. The full moon will illuminate this for you. Can you be an individual and co-create? Yes. Can you lead from the heart and share power? Yes. Can you shine brightly while empowering others to shine brightly? Yes, yes, you can. So notice what is being illuminated in your role of transformative relationships, and notice what energizes you to cultivate and inspire as your creativity expands. In my free group, The Savvy Luminary, I hope this answered your question, Erica, Jody, and Britt. So let's dive into a user question. I love this new format, and I hope you do too, where I'm selecting a question from a listener each week to answer here quickly with their birth time, date, and information. So today, our question comes from Lisbeth Savard, and she asks,
So my name is Lisbeth. So my question is about launching a new program that's going to be focused on moon energy, the seasons, different cycles, and tapping into our feminine to maximize our energy and to create projects when we feel the most creative, rest when we need to, and, plan new things at certain times of the month that really kind of maximize our energy for that period of time. So my question is whether it's best to launch it on a new moon or on a full moon. And I kind of have an idea about, launching on either one. For me, on a new moon, that would be planting the seed, but the full moon is also kind of the climax or the conclusion. So I don't know if I need to close the cart on the full moon or if it's best to do the opposite.
Lisbeth. All right. So it sounds like you have a really great grasp of working with lunar energy, right? And so you already understand that the new moon is time to plant seeds and start new things and discover what you desire. And the full moon is a time to celebrate, give thanks, release, and let go right before manifestation. So if you're asking the question, when do I close the cart on the full moon, or if it's best to do the opposite? There's no perfect time, right? This is one of these things where it's more important to initiate, right? So when you're opening the cart feels like more important than when you're closing the cart. Equally, it's more important to think about when you will have your first get together in the group or the membership, or release your first training. That kind of initiation is when you really want to harness the moon. But because, electional astrology is actually this really tricky thing, because there is no perfect time, right? If you're ready, do it. If you're feeling like, okay, this is a great time, do it. If you're feeling, oh no, I'm going to be in my cycle that time, I'm not going to feel energized, then don't do it, right? It's so personal. I know that's not an exact answer. Like I don't have these exact answers for people, and I'm sorry that I don't, but hopefully that the questions that we are asking is going to give you more insight into what I sense you already know. Right. And so one of the things that you probably also already know with working with the lunar cycles is that when the moon returns to its natal degree. So for you, Elizabeth, when I look at your chart, you are a Sagittarius moon. And so I'm also a Sagittarius moon. I love Sagittarian moon that need to be free. And so when the moon returns to Sagittarius of 3 degrees, this is generally a really fertile time. In traditional astrology and some health astrologers, although this is very tricky and I don't recommend, don't take my word for this, just feel into it. Generally, people will say, if you're working with your cycle and you're trying to get pregnant, you would, your fertile time is when your moon returns to your moon time. So for you, Sagittarius at 3 degrees. But what this really means is that when our moon returns each month to our natal moon degree, this is like coming back home, right? Because our moon sign is like our inner emotional comfort and our attachment to our past. It feels like home. And so when the moon is at home for us, this really feels like a fertile time to create, because you're feeling the most comfortable. Right? So if you ever in a pinch and you're like, I need to just make a decision, you can always look at a moon calculator and then look at when the moon returns to for you at 3 degrees of Sagittarius, and then you can find that time. But so I'm curious as to what date that you've decided to open the cart. It sounds like, the new moon is perfect. And the full moon is, yes, about releasing and letting go. There's some closure, but also like the waning period, disseminating period right before the full moon sounds like a really good time to you. So curious for you, what feels good to you? All right. So that was our question for today. If you have a question and you would like a question answered for your business or your brand using astrology, please head over to speakpipe.com. So that's speakpipe.com/The Savvy Luminary. Leave me a short question with your name, birth time, birth date, and place of birth, and I will choose a question to answer in each episode. All right, so let's dive into the astrology of the week of January 24th through January 30th, our last week of the first month of 2021. All right, on January 26th, we have the sun squaring off with Uranus in the sky. So sun in the fixed sign of Aquarius and Uranus in the fixed sign of Earth. So we talked about sun fixed in Aquarius, meaning fixed ideas. Uranus is fixed action, right? Because earth signs are about acting and creating. So with this theme for today, it is creative energies acted upon to break through. So what does this mean is, what happens if you drill into the intensity of the problem a bit more? The sun in Aquarius is creating a beautiful tension with Uranus in Taurus. External experiences can change your plans for the better. Be open to these changes because pleasant surprises may happen. On January 28th, we have our full moon in Leo. Yay, we already talked about Leo full moon, and it's a great day to let go of the past because today you're going to be celebrating how you impact others, how you grow confidently and passionately while you let go of the ideas of being an outsider that holds you back. Also on that day that we talked a little bit about earlier when I was talking about the full moon in Leo is that Venus joins Pluto in Capricorn that day. So if you know your chart really well, look to 25 degrees of Capricorn where Venus and Pluto meet, because this is that part of your chart that wants to be illuminated about where you are meant to create transformative relationships in your business. Also, later that day, the sun joins Jupiter in a conjunction at 9 degrees. So it's a pretty big day, this full moon, with the moon and the sun being opposite of each other, with the moon meeting, with the sun meeting Jupiter in the sky at 9 degrees, and Venus and 9 degrees of Aquarius, and Venus and Pluto meeting at 25 degrees in Capricorn. So if you want to take a look at your chart, because you were already looking at it for the full moon, if you look to 9 degrees of Aquarius where Jupiter and the sun meet, take a look and see where in your business has more information to feel even more energized, even more expansive, and even more creative so that you can bring in the future. On January 29th, we finally are starting, and you're starting to feel the Mercury retrograde. So this is a great day to clear our calendar because while Mercury isn't exactly going retrograde just yet, Mercury is coming to that standstill before it shifts gears backwards. And so anytime a planet looks like it's appearing to stay stationary in the sky, it's just the appearance from our place on Earth. Even though when it appears to be stationary in the sky, it's going to feel like Mercury is just drilling down on that 26 degrees of Aquarius before it returns. Okay. And so this is normally the day when everybody gets kind of like weirded out about Mercury retrogrades, because this is where miscommunications can happen. This is where like tech glitches can happen. These are where all of those like Mercury going, all of the communications and the technology energy and the like, short distance travel where everything starts to intensify. So, gratefully, most of us are not traveling or commuting nowadays. So, we don't, if you do travel, make sure you had your calendar and your travel time over the next couple of days, because on the 29th, as Mercury steps on the brakes and appears to come to a stop before shifting backwards, this degree of Aquarius 26, where Mercury puts on the brakes, will feel intense for this day or two. Get curious with this intensity, as it's giving you a clue as what you will need to reorganize during the next 3 weeks while Mercury highlights this area of your chart. So if you know your chart, look to Aquarius 26 degrees. The house in which it sits is where you are being asked to create more space and room for misunderstandings so you can receive insights about the future. And then the next day, on the 30th, Mercury finally shifts into reverse, and we have our first retrograde, the beginning of our first retrograde in 2021. We have 3 retrogrades, and our next episode is going to be all about this retrograde. So mark your calendars, and of course, you are invited to my workshop on January 29th, that Friday. Head over to thesavvyluminary.com/Mercury so you can join in on a masterclass so that we can rethink our equitable success in our business. So we'll be talking about what needs shifting and rethinking in our business so that we can create social equity. From January 30th through February 20th, Mercury will highlight the area of Aquarius 26 degrees to Aquarius 11 degrees so that you can rethink equitable success and your role in creating this new future. This is a time for reflection so you can redo, rethink, reorganize, and refine parts of your life and your business for the future. So next week, we'll be talking all about this Mercury retrograde. Thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. I feel like I'm finally coming out of hibernation, and you probably feel like that too. After our retrograde season, after February 20th, we're going to finally feel like we're moving forward into the future and not having this hangover from 2020. So thank you again for spending this time with me. And before we leave, let's close out our episode with our beginning mantra. So again, make space to ground yourself and repeat after me. I am a changemaker and revel in my uniqueness. I am a changemaker and revel in my uniqueness. Yay! All right, hugs to you, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Until next week when we talk all about the Mercury retrograde. Take care. Mahalo for listening to this brand new podcast. If you enjoyed learning about astrology for entrepreneurs, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast with your business besties, and hop over to the Savvy Luminary for links to episode notes and our free Facebook community where you can send me questions about astrology or branding, as well as connect with other like-minded businesses.